I do want to say one thing, Jake. A little bit funny. You're going to hate me for this. You're going to be upset with me. But can we revisit the stadium? Can we maybe raise another billion and come up with a dome? Because Jake, I'm sorry to tell you this. We are a passing team, and this weather just hurts that. It hurts it tremendously. We had, I don't know, 5 to 6 drops out there easily today, and Josh Allen. Josh Allen doesn't realize it's raining. He still wants to throw the ball 110 miles per hour. I don't know, Jake. I'm just thinking we need to rethink the stadium.
Now, you know what, though, Mike? No excuses because the Jets receivers caught the ball just fine. So I don't – like, I get where you're coming from. And it's crazy because I feel like back in the day maybe the weather was more of an advantage for the Bills. Now it's almost like the playing fields have sort of evened out. And these other teams come in here on these big rainy days, where the wind is gusting and the snow is blowing and it's rainy and whatnot. Mike White played pretty damn well out there. He threw the ball just fine. The receivers made plays. They caught passes. So I'm not going to totally – I mean, obviously the weather has an effect, but the other team did it just fine. So I don't – I don't like – obviously you can use it as an excuse to a certain extent, but like they made plays. Why didn't we? I mean, Isaiah McKenzie had how many drop balls? Dawson Knox even. I mean, he had a couple drop passes himself. So, yeah, I think you just gotta capitalize. You gotta execute. You can't make those mental errors. If it hits your hands, you gotta catch it, plain and simple. And I know Josh throws a fastball, but my gosh, like, come on, you gotta make a play, plain and simple.
Well, I guess what I'm saying, you guys like to drop these. We're going to drop 35. Big L always saying we're going to drop over 30. That's not going to happen in these games. It just hasn't happened over the last couple of years. Whenever it rains, we struggle to catch footballs for whatever reason.
That is true.
Jake, right?
That is absolutely true.
And some of that is a little bit. It is. I mean, it's much easier to catch a fastball that's 80 miles an hour than 110 miles per hour for sure. So, Josh's arm kind of hurts us there in those rain games. But you're right. There's no excuse. But I'm just saying, man. I'm kind of over.
No, I know.
I'm over it. Let's. I want to see this team play at their full potential. I want to see us drop 30. I want to see us drop 40. Not going to happen if we keep dropping footballs, which we seem to keep doing. McKenzie dropped a couple big ones, right? Couple big ones. He had been having such a couple good games, and he had at least 2 big drops. Dawson Knox, who had a nice game, also had a couple drops. And
Singletary.
Singletary, yeah. Go ahead, Sean.
I don't think it's like I thought about it more, and I don't even really blame Josh for 90% of the problems in the bad weather because he's cutting the wind, he's throwing it in rain and snow, perfect spirals. But like Jake said, it wasn't a quarterback problem. It's a wide receiver issue. Their wide receivers were catching the balls in the rain and the snow. Ours weren't. So it'd be nice to have the dome just because like they don't have an excuse, but they still drop it when there's a good weather. we have a drop problem with our team. So again, like people look at Josh's stat line, 16 for 28, 59%. Probably 8 of those were wide open drops. The smoke pass, like your dad said, Josh underthrew him, but he burned Sauce. He burned the heck out of Sauce, and he tried to throw it 60 yards downfield in wind and rain. Like, obviously, it's going to take the ball down a little bit, but, I mean, besides that, there was a lot of drops that were wide open. Like, Motor dropped twice. McKenzie dropped at least 3. I mean, I'm sure Gabe Davis dropped at least 1. I mean, it wouldn't be a game without him doing that. And Knox dropped at least 1. But it's a wide receiver issue. Like, I don't understand why these guys can't catch. I mean, you have Josh Allen throwing you the ball in practice 150 miles an hour, and you can't catch something in bad weather. It blows my mind, honestly.
They practice in bad weather sometimes. I mean, they stimulate these game situations. So I understand where Mike's coming from for sure, because obviously it gives you better odds to be able to put up those numbers and those stats and points that we like to see. But the other team's got to deal with the same weather. So it's like, can you battle through adversity? Who's going to come out on top, plain and simple. So, and they did. They still won the game today. So you can't be too mad at them, obviously. But when you look at Josh's like adjusted completion percentage, it's probably in the 90s because of all the drops that we had today. I mean, really, you talk about it, Sean. Maybe I would say there were definitely at least 6 drops on the day. Isaiah McKenzie with 3 of them, Dawson with 2, Devin Singletary with a couple. I mean, Smoke. I'm not going to even totally put that on him because Yeah, again, that's underthrown. So, yeah, I mean, really, you go back to those, the stats look totally different in that case. And actually, probably the score, too.
If I was to tell you Josh Allen was going to throw for 147 yards, and if you said, hey, how did the game go? I said, Josh Allen threw for 147 yards. You thinking we won that game? Hell no.
No.
There is no way you're thinking we won that game. And then,
Who would have thought that Sam Martin would have more yards than Josh Allen today?
Punting yards and passing yards, yeah.
That
Crazy.
is funny. We got Chris Tebow coming in, $200 million quarterback, needs a dome. Enough of these 5-yard passes. I'm with you, Chris. I'm with you.
Well, I will say, to Brian's point,
Yeah.
the stadium might be around for 100 years, but I sure as hell won't be. So I want to see a ring. I don't
Good
care.
rebuttal.
I don't care about the people. 60 years from now, I want to win now. So they get the dome now. I mean, I don't care what they do later on, but I do. I get your point, though. It makes a lot of sense.
Hey, there's this thing called a retractable dome, Jake. You can still have some weather and some if you want it. I'm just
That would
saying.
be too logical, Mike.
I'm
Come
just
on.
saying. We got Ryan. Ryan, I think, was at the game today. He says, I like the elements. Don't forget his 50 rushing yards, too. Yeah, he had,
Hell yeah. I was sitting outside yesterday, Mike, in 27-degree weather in a tree stand. I know it's totally different, obviously, but I'll tell you what, man. Like, again, I'll go back to growing up and playing football and stuff. I lived, and I had a few screws loose. I lived, and even when I played, I lived to play in the elements. I loved it. Something about it, it just says football weather to me. So I'm all for it. But I totally understand where you're coming from with the dome. I respect that point, and it makes sense. It definitely makes sense, of course. If you have a neutral environment, then you don't have an excuse to make. And if your team plays poorly, your team just plays poorly, and you can't blame it on anything else.